In this video, I'm going to show you how you can actually start a profitable business with YouTube super fast, because believe it or not, you can. But before we do that, we need to understand what the problem is. And the problem is, we have so many businesses out there that have great offers, they have great ideas, they build great SOPs, systems, and frameworks. The problem is there's one thing that always lacks. It's probably the biggest problem that every business faces, and it's actually the engine of the business, which is the acquisition channel, right? How are businesses actually getting in qualified leads, not just leads, but qualified leads repeatably and predictably? Well, this completely solves that problem. As I just said, what happens is usually businesses all start the same, with the same formula, if you will, right? They always usually do the same thing. They pick a niche, they have an offer, they build a funnel, they have a VSL on that funnel trying to drive traffic into book a call or whatever the backend offer is. And then they struggle to drive traffic. I want to break this one down specifically today. This is the one I really want to focus on, which is not being able to drive traffic or struggling to drive traffic. Because if we could crack the code here, if we can crack the code to being able to have predictable traffic with qualified leads for our business, then we'd be playing the game of business on easy mode, right? Well, that's exactly why this right here is the key. And when I'm saying this, I'm referring to YouTube. YouTube is the key, believe it or not. And I know you think that maybe you've heard this before, but I think that I'm here and I'm able to break it down in a light that's maybe just slightly different than what you're used to hearing when it comes to YouTube. Now, this is the exact same key that literally makes me $15,000 to $20,000 a month. And it's only using organic YouTube. That is it. Okay. It's the same thing that made me almost $90,000 in the span of 4 months without, and this is the key here, guys, like literally, and I'm not exaggerating, this is without any paid ads and only organic YouTube videos. That is where all of that money was generated from, get this, a small channel with views averaging less than 5,000 views per video. Okay, like this is mental stuff. And I feel like there's so many people sleeping on this right now. In fact, here's just a little bit of proof for you guys. This was my dashboard when I say I made almost $90,000 in the span of 4 months. This is $86,000 cash collected. This is my Stripe account in the span of, I think it was from January to April. Okay. So when you understand how to leverage YouTube for acquisition, for getting leads, and for business growth, rather than for just vanity metrics, which is, focusing on how many subscribers, how many views am I getting? When you forget about that, when you put your ego aside and you just make content specifically for your targeted client or your targeted buyer, your views are going to go down. Your growth isn't going to be the same, but we're not optimizing for vanity metrics. We're optimizing for revenue, for income. And when you do that, you make YouTube your business engine. It literally becomes your engine. Okay. Well, what do I mean? Well, let me give you a couple examples. I'm sure you guys have heard of Max Pearson. Well, he's one of my business coaches, and he makes over $100,000 a month. He was spending over $30,000 in ad spend every single month, and thousands of dollars on email newsletters and all these different things, retargeting ads, you name it. Okay. He completely him and his team basically stopped all that and went all in on just YouTube, organic YouTube growth. What happened? Well, he wasn't getting any crazy views or anything, but he got the same amounts, even sometimes more leads from organic YouTube, qualified leads, by the way. And that's the whole point. They were way more qualified. And he was saving tens of thousands of dollars every month. Why? Because they went all in on YouTube organic. Take myself as another example, right? I've grown a YouTube channel that's been bringing in over 100,000 views per month. And I can't seem to break that channel past $3,000 a month in income, right? Because it's a wide total addressable market. It's a broke audience. With my other channel, which is the one that you're watching right now, this brings in way less views. It only has less than 3,000 subscribers, and it makes me over $10,000 a month, right? In fact, here's the one I'm talking about. So this is the YouTube channel here, right here. This is the YouTube channel that brings me, let me just fix that. This is the YouTube channel that brings me about $3,000 a month, but like usually on the lesser end of that, that's like the max I tend to do, but it's the one that's bringing in about 100,000 views a month. Whereas this one right here, this one's not bringing that many views in. It has less than 3,000 subscribers. And this one right here is making me over $10,000 a month because I'm hyper targeted. I'm speaking exactly to my buyer. When you create a product for a business, most people think that that's your business, right? They root their business identity based on their product a lot of times. But your business, it's really rooted in the systems that get attention, that get acquisition. This is your organic and only business engine any business needs for their business growth, right? And it's something like YouTube. Not something, it is YouTube. This is exactly what YouTube strategists do, by the way. Which is a lot of content I make about, which is about YouTube strategists. It's what I do as well, right? We help businesses not only make videos, but instead build the systems behind the offer. So if you're a six-figure entrepreneur and you want this done for you, I do offer one-to-one. You can click the link below. I have another link below if you're somebody who is a YouTube strategist or aspiring YouTube strategist and you want to scale your YouTube strategy business past $10,000 a month relatively quickly. I also have a link for that below as well. So the question was going to come up here naturally is, how do you actually do this, right? So if you're a business and you want to use YouTube organic content to actually bring in leads, not focus on growth or vanity metrics, and actually bring in revenue that we're talking about here, how can you actually do this? Well, it's actually not that difficult. You first need to decide which goal you have. So again, is your goal going to be vanity metrics or is it going to be income? Because we're going to do two completely different strategies. If your goal is just to blow up, we're going to do a different strategy than if your goal is to just bring in as much revenue as possible, right? Because if your goal is to blow up, we're gonna try to target a bigger addressable market to bring in that growth, to bring in those eyeballs. But they will be much less qualified or way less qualified as leads or buyers, right? Versus if we are only making content specifically for our buyers. So that's the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out, are we going at this YouTube thing with the goal of making as much revenue as possible, or with the goal of having vanity metrics, right? Then I created this kind of flywheel here for us to help us. So we're going to focus on ICP. We're going to focus on X but X, ideas, vehicle, course funnel, backend, tracking, and refining. Okay. We're going to break all of these down right here, but this is what I call the business acquisition blueprint for YouTube. If you are a business and you want to get started doing this, generating leads for your YouTube channel right now, this is a flywheel to follow. The first one's ICP. So this stands for Ideal Client Profile. And this is basically a document. So for example, when any clients I work with one-to-one or anybody who's inside my program, we spend a lot of time really building out our ICP in detail because it's everything else is rooted in that. Okay. This is a document that you need to be creating. And it's basically a document that it explains exactly in depth who your ideal client profile is, right? What channels they watch, what are their habits, what are their curiosities, what are their pain points, like you name it, we get really deep into that. Because, as I said, everything that we move forward with, especially if we're targeting our results for revenue, it's going to be rooted highly and massively rooted in our ICP. So this is the very first thing we do is we create this ICP, okay? Now the next thing is the X but X. So the X but X is kind of like your X factor. Okay, because there are so many people in the exact same niche as you creating the same thing as you, saying the same thing as you. So we have to stand out somehow. And this is where the X but X comes in. I'm sure you've heard this concept before. But we need to actually figure out how to find our X factor. So what is the thing that's going to help us stand out, right? Let's say it's a video editing YouTube channel. It's like, I'm a video editor. Or if it's your X but X, it's like, no, I'm a video editor who focuses in teaching editors how to scale up their income with becoming expert storytellers, right? Like that's the X but X. That's an example of that. And not only that, but this helps you find your authenticity, which is really important, because if you're just saying the same thing as everyone else the exact same way, then they're just going to go watch whoever's doing it better than you. But if you're doing your own thing, your own X but X, people are going to watch you for you, right? And this is going to take time. It's hard to do. It's hard to be authentic at first, but it'll come. The next is ideas. So this one's super important. The next thing that we need to focus on if we're a business after our X but X and ICP is the actual ideas we're coming up with. So there's two ways to do this. There's niche hack outliers. So that's the first thing we're going to do is I always suggest that we look for outliers, which is basically if you start a brand new YouTube channel, you post a video today, it gets 17 views, you post another video, it gets 18 views, another video gets 12 views. But then you post another video and that video gets 100,000 views. That video is an outlier. It's a video that does exponentially better than anything else on your channel in comparison to your subscriber count or to your other videos performance. So what we want to do is we want to go search out in the world, the ecosystem of YouTube, other people's content and see what content they created to make outliers or to have outliers themselves, so that we could take those concepts and reverse engineer them to be applicable to our niche. What I always recommend doing is, if you're in the business niche or entrepreneur space, don't go look at other business niche entrepreneur outliers, because if we're taking those outliers and just doing them for ourselves, they're going to go watch the person who created it, not you, right? So I always recommend we do outlier research and try to find those outliers or really high performing videos in other niches. So for example, if we're making content about YouTube growth, I'm going to go see what did well in the coding space, for example, or software engineer space. I'm going to find outliers in that niche. Then I'm going to reverse engineer the concept, the title, the thumbnail, the idea. I'm going to reverse engineer it and make it applicable to the YouTube growth space, right? So it's like if you find a coding video and it's how I would start, 10 years of, or 5 years of coding advice in 20 minutes, how I would start over in 2025. Then I would be like, cool, this is an outlier. It got like 1 million views. It's like a 20x outlier, meaning it's performed like 20 times better than anything else on their channel. I'm going to take this concept. It's in a different niche. I'm going to make it applicable to mine, YouTube growth. So it's like, I'll basically copy the same thing, but make it applicable to YouTube growth. I'll be like, 5 years of YouTube growth advice, in 20 minutes, how I would start over again in 2025, right? I'm taking the exact same concept. I'm just making it applicable to my niche. That's what I mean by niche hacking outliers right here. That's what I'm talking about, referring to. Then reverse engineer it to our ICP. So when we reverse engineer, so when we go into another niche and we find outliers and reverse engineer it to our niche, we then want to reverse engineer or refine the title, the packaging, the thumbnail, the idea, everything. We want to refine it even further to speak directly to our ICP, our ideal client profile, our buyers. What this is going to do is yes, it's going to limit the reach that it gets, the views that it gets, the total addressable market, but it's going to be targeting the exact person that we want to target in order to buy our stuff. Okay, so this is why the ideas is so important, and this is where this all ties in as well, right? This is where this ties back in with our ICP. This is why it's so important to do that first. Next is we're going to figure out what vehicle we want to go in. Now, when I say vehicle, I mean figure out what type of content's best for you, right? What resonates with your ideal client profile the most. This is, again, why it's so important to know our ICP, because we want to know what kind of content did they watch, right? What kind of editing style does that content have? And then what resonates with us the most as well. What's easiest and most feasible for us? Is it raw content like this with an iPad, right? Is it raw content in front of a whiteboard? Is it super highly produced, highly edited content? What is that vehicle of content going to be for you? Maybe it's vlogs, maybe, right? It's figuring out what that is. And at first, test it, right? Spend a month, 2 months testing which type is, 1, most feasible for you, 2, excites you the most, and 3, resonates with your ICP. And if you can find kind of that perfect trifecta, then you're golden, and that's the vehicle to roll with, right? Now, this also comes into the idea of style. Like, for example, I could easily be doing this, what I'm doing right now, on a whiteboard, but that doesn't resonate with my style. I love Apple. I like the clean look, right? I have my lighting and everything in my background designed specifically to give a high quality Apple type look. I have a Shure mic instead of a random Yeti mic. I have an iPad with an Apple Pencil instead of a whiteboard. This is all methodical based off of the style that I want to follow, which is that like clean Apple-esque, like Tesla and Apple have a baby kind of aesthetic. Whereas if I wanted to go kind of the more raw, like brained up route, like, study kind of vibe, I might use a journal or a whiteboard in the background. That being said, I highly suggest what you do is you basically should go to Pinterest and you should get a lot of inspiration from there for the style you want to go. You should also consume other content as much as possible and find what content you like the most. And I highly suggest you do this outside of YouTube, like on Instagram Shorts or TikTok or something like that, and see what styles are doing well there that you could resonate with to make applicable and bring to YouTube. And then you accumulate the two, your interest for, or your inspiration from Pinterest and your consumption of an inspiration from short form platforms, and you accumulate it together to bring that style to YouTube. Next is the course funnel strategy. So if we look at our flywheel, next up is the course funnel strategy. Now the course funnel strategy is basically to have a pinned course video. So you create a free, like 1 hour long, 40 minutes or longer course video for free to your ideal client profile. If you go to this channel right here, you'll see that I have a free course teaching YouTube strategists how I made as much as I make like $20,000 a month doing what I do as a YouTube strategist. And it's a full course. And I have that there, and many other creators. This is called the course strategy. It's like it's so good for leads. I've already booked so many calls and gotten so many leads just from this for not only myself, but clients I work with. Essentially, you create a free full course video and you have it as your pinned page on your homepage. Okay. So anytime anyone goes to your channel, it's that page. Then what we're going to do is inside that course video, we have several hard call to actions to our actual offer, right? So we provide value, call to action, value, call to action, value, final big call to action, right? Then what we're doing is we're not doing hard call to actions in the rest of our content. Instead, we're using that to build trust and to bring people into our content ecosystem. So we're giving a ton of value in all of our videos. And at the end, we're going to say, hey, by the way, if you want to learn exactly how to do this step by step, I have a free 1 hour course. You can click here, right? So at the end of all of our normal videos, we're pushing them into our free course. This is going to build way more trust, way more value, and qualify your leads way more. Not only that, but it also helps YouTube push our content more because YouTube, they like having a higher average view duration or like channel time, people when they spend more time on your channel, right? So the more that we can get people to watch content on our channel, the more YouTube's going to push us, because what is YouTube's goal, right? Look at it from their perspective. YouTube's goal is to keep people on their platform as long as possible. So if most of our videos have a call to action, our normal videos, to another one of our really long videos, YouTube's going to know that that's going to keep them on the platform for longer, and it's going to help push our content. This isn't just theory. This is actually things that a true strategy that's working. It works for me and it works for a lot of clients I work with, right? This works really well if you're trying to build a business and generate really, really high quality leads. So that's exactly, and what this does is it increases total session time, which YouTube likes, right? And this is what this course funnel strategy is. Now, the next thing after we do this that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a backend. Now, most of us are probably going to already have a backend, meaning a funnel, a VSL, and a call booking page and all that. The thing is here, I see way too often when doing audits on people's backend offers, they have conflicting offers. They have like 3 to 5 links, and they just it's confusing. A confused buyer doesn't buy. It's as simple as that. So we need to have a super clear, simple, fast, and easy backend conversion. One link to one page, to one VSL, to one button to do one thing. Buy that one thing. Keep it super simple. And your conversions will literally, your conversion rate percentage your CTR on your offer, I guarantee you, will just blow up. Next is tracking. And people just do not take this as seriously as they need to. But you need to have systems to track your actual revenue from YouTube. Because what happens is YouTube, if we fundamentally zoom out from a macro perspective, YouTube, what do? They show you analytics or metrics based off of YouTube growth. They have a ranking system called 1 of 10. So a video that's 10 out of 10 is the worst performing video. A video that's a 1 out of 10 is a really good performing, high performing video for your channel. Now, YouTube's goal, or the only thing that they track for, is for growth. But we as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we don't really care about the growth, the vanity metrics. We want to track for business, for leads, for acquisition, for money, for what's closed, right? That being said, YouTube doesn't give us that information. So we need to use third-party tools, which, by the way, one of the tools that I use, I don't have any affiliation with them or anything, but one I use with all my clients and with myself, it's called RevTrack. It's a really, really awesome tool because what it does is it's exactly like the YouTube Analytics Studio, but what they do is instead of tracking your growth, they track each person that comes from a video and into your funnel, how many of those people actually click the button to book a call, and how many of those people that booked a call actually purchased. And it tracks the entire flow, right? The entire ecosystem, the entire journey of the potential buyer, potential client, which is super valuable information. Why? Remember I said that YouTube has a system to ranking 10 out of 10 or 1 out of 10. Well, for example, not only with a lot of creators I work with, but also for myself, one of my lowest performing videos, again, I have some videos on this channel that has gotten over 50,000 views that brought in 0 leads. Other videos on this channel that you're watching that has literally only 200 views, but that brought in almost like $7,000 worth of leads. Why? Because I was targeting my specific buyer and the one that did really poorly from a growth perspective, but did really well from a business perspective. Now, this is why it's so important to track, because imagine that I just looked at the video that did 50,000 views and it was happened to be the same month I posted the one that brought in $7,000. Well, if I didn't look at the data or I didn't have that data, I would just have assumed based off of the data that YouTube gave me, it was the video that did really well and got 50,000 views. And I would just double down and keep doing that. But that would have been wrong. So because I used a tool like RevTrack, for example, there's other ones like HighROS out there as well, but you can use these tools to track your actual business or actual revenue data, buyers who are coming from your content. You can track that data, and that data tells you what videos actually did well for the business. So for example, for me, I'm doubling down on videos on my channel like this that are going to perform probably really poorly and get 200 views. Like this video will probably only get like 200 views, even though I have the capability of getting 50,000 plus, which I've proven on this channel. Why? Because the data has showed me that the last video I did that got only 200 views in this exact style, speaking about a similar topic, made me thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue. And because I have that data, I can see what is actually important to double down on. This is why it's so important to track your data, okay? And you need to have systems in place to do it. Now, the next and final thing you need to do as a business that wants to blow up on YouTube as far as acquisition and leads is refining. So based off of all the data you get, not only from the YouTube studio, but also from a third-party tool that you have, you need to then figure out, okay, what did well, what didn't? Look at what did and double down on that. It's as simple as that. For example, this type of content that I'm making right now, it does horrible in terms of growth, but it's been bringing in a ton of leads. And I personally like it more, which is great because, yeah, it forces me to have to put my ego aside and get 200 views a video when I could easily get 50,000 views a video. That hurts a little bit, especially as a YouTube strategist. But I know it's bringing in way more revenue, which is more important and more fun for me at the end of the day. So I was only able to know that by looking at this from a bird's eye perspective, a macro perspective, looking at the data and refining. Right? And this is why it's so important. So this is the ecosystem that you need to follow in order to absolutely blow up your business as far as the income goes. You need to create a super targeted ICP, an X, focus in on ideas, figure out your vehicle, build a course funnel ecosystem to keep people in your content for longer. Make sure you have a simple backend. Make sure you're tracking all of the data, not just in the YouTube studio. And finally, refine and double down. So with that being said, this is the exact thing that I would do if I was a brand new business or even an established business, but I wanted to start bringing in tens of thousands of dollars with YouTube really easily, and I'm not kidding, really easily, then this is exactly what I would do. Now, if you guys want this all done for you and you are an entrepreneur earning over 6 figures or more, then you could click the second link below to figure out how to work with me and move forward there to see if I have any available slots. Or if you're a YouTube strategist or aspiring YouTube strategist and you want to learn how I make $10,000 to $20,000 plus per month as a strategist, then you can click on this video right here and watch a completely free 1 hour long course on how I teach you exactly how I did it so you could just copy me. With that being said, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you and I'm rooting for you.